Welcome to Sitting with Shay J. Today we're highlighting National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm excited because this is going to really focus on the mental health issues affecting our minority communities. And I think this is the perfect person to have the conversation with. Welcome the founder of Therapists of Color Collaborative, Rossina. Welcome.
Thank you, Shay. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. Your organization is doing the work, and I'm excited to have this conversation because I know our community doesn't have a lot of conversations like this, right? Let's just keep it real.
That's right.
So I want to jump in there. When you thought about starting the collaborative, what was that thought? What was the reason? What was your why?
Absolutely. My why was going through grad school and really even up before, as a professional, just navigating professional spaces, as Afro-Latina, my spaces that I existed in were very polka dotty, if you will. And so when I started grad school, I was just kind of looking around the landscape and I was like, wow, this is no joke that really the 83% of our profession is non-BIPOC. And so, there's the other 17% of us that are trying to figure out what this looks like. And that's all of us, African-American, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander. I mean, that's all of us. And so when I looked around at that, I was just like, post-grad school, I was like, we really need to have a space because learning about mental health and already the various stigmas that each of our respective communities have, it was very isolating to know that we didn't have spaces to reflect, to talk openly about different issues. And so that was really the impetus of it all. It was like, I wanted a space where I could find a place that looked like me. And that's really what kind of moved forward into a very spirit-led, faith-led endeavor, because it is where therapy looks like you.
Wow, I often find when we birth things out of a need that we see, a gap that we see, there's just so much more purpose behind the organization.
Absolutely.
And I think this is what's being felt with your organization. When you think about mental health and the significance of addressing this in our community, why is that so significant?
We've spent so much time throughout our lives, and most of us grew up in spaces where, baby, we don't talk about what happens outside our home, or baby, we're going to go to church, we're going to pray about it, we're going to put it on the pulpit, right? And so we've done that the greater part of our lives. And, I think the one thing that really started stirring things up for us was COVID. And then on top of COVID, we had the impetus of what happened with George Floyd and all the subsequent domino effect of events. And for me, COVID was almost one of the best things that could happen in our community because it made us really sit down and sit with our thoughts and recognize we can no longer sit with this dysfunction. So in so many ways, we are finally talking about things that we have kept hidden and we had suffered with in isolation for so long. And we're talking about it. Still not as maybe as positively, but we're actually talking about it now. And we're sharing it with our friends, and it's becoming conversation at table, and we're fellowshipping about these things. And so I'm just so glad we're actually talking about it. There's still so much work to do as it pertains to mental health, but we are finally at the table talking about it. And our community issues are being held under a spotlight because we're actually now also talking about the social determinants of health and how our community is just so disproportionately and disparately impacted by these things.
Oh my God. You hit the nail on the head in so many ways. And like you said, I'm excited that the conversation is becoming a little bit more normalized. This is why it's so important to me to have these type of conversations on Sitting with Shay J. When we think about the importance of effective mental health treatment, how much does that really change the trajectory of not just getting help, but getting something that's effective and that is actually culturally responsive to what we need?
Absolutely. When somebody's coming into therapy, they're coming at their most vulnerable. And so that responsiveness and speaking to that responsivity, we have to be aware of the cultural nuances. We have to be aware of just what's happening. And we have to be able to respond in a way that allows the person to believe they themselves are the subject matter experts of their lives. And as a therapist, I'm a partner in that ship. So I'm coming to join you on this journey to help you change maybe the way that you've been thinking about it, or maybe not not feeling so alone in these issues that you're finally talking about. And so, you know, the journey of therapy is giving people permission to ask for the help that they deserve. And I really, truly believe that. I mean, for me, this is heart work. And if people have places where they feel safe enough to begin exploring these things, and they have the right partner with them, they will do the work. Right? And they're no longer afraid of it, right? You know, we spend so much time being afraid of our feelings, but I mean, the only way through it is through it.
Through it.
Right?
Doing the work, getting through it.
Yeah.
When we think about the minority community and just seeing some things, like you say, it replays, and a lot of times people feel like they're alone.
Yeah.
What are some of the common mental health issues that you're seeing in minority communities more than, you know, other communities?
You know, I mean, because a lot of our issues within our community are kind of compounded, right? You know, when we're looking at the social determinants of health, we're looking at, you know, we don't have communities that are safe to live in. We don't have enough food. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough access. We don't even have enough education. Like in Colorado, within the minority community, you know, 30% of our demographic barely attained just over a high school degree.
Wow.
30%. And so, you know, when we're looking at these different things that impact our community, you know, we have to go and bring resources, right? It's not just what's equitable, it's like the work of equity. And we've seen, right, we've seen it go up, but we've also seen it start trending down, and we can't, because that very aspect of what we need to bring into communities to make access possible, you know, is what we can do to start attacking it. So the social determinants of health, when people don't feel safe, well, we have violence, right? Yeah. And we have complex trauma. So we see a lot of complex trauma. We see a lot of depression. We see a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, and substance use disorders, right? But we also see a lot of misdiagnoses. You know, African American men are more disproportionately identified as having like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or borderline personality because of the manifestation of some of their, whether it's their emotions or even just how they're expressing their emotions. And so, you know, a lot of work has to go into really being that cultural competency, responsiveness, awareness, to be able to deliver the services that our community so deeply deserves.
We deserve the help. You know, there's individuals out there that are like, I still don't know how to make the first step when I'm seeking this mental health, you know, advocate, this partnership. I know you have a collaborative. What is this first step to making the life changes needed?
Yeah. You know, I think the first step more than anything is mental health literacy, right? Mental health literacy is really, how are we looking at mental health in general? What things can we do to change the language, the way we're approaching it? Because these ultimately impact our help-seeking behaviors, right? When we can promote a little bit more literacy, then that permission comes in. And so when somebody's coming in, it's just having the courage to be able to ask for help, right? And when they can ask for that help, and that help can be responsive, right? And in my folks, we have like that 48-hour window. And if we're not touching somebody, whether it's a text message, phone call, something, we have to touch you within that 48 hours, because once you get to 72, that courage to ask for that help, it starts waning off.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to meet people where they are and to really touch them when they're asking for that help in that very moment.
I love that. I know in our community we've had a lot of things happen, a lot of grief right here in the Mile High City.
Oh, yes.
And so I think it's so important that we give people the help that they need as soon as they give you signs, show you anything. What message would you leave to viewers out there on the importance of mental health? You've left so many gems, but people that may be struggling or people that know someone else is struggling in silence, oftentimes I feel like we don't do what we can do, our due diligence as friends. You know, what advice would you give to those people out there?
You know, I would say if something is out of character for somebody, it's okay to say like, hey, are you good? Or are you okay? Can I just sit with you? Right? Because sometimes just that one little check-in gives somebody permission to just kind of open up, because so many of us walk around with that idea that I can't open up to you because my problems are now going to burden you. And so we're too busy trying to filter and be the thermostat for other people. So it's okay to ask somebody if it's a little out of character, if they're hiding out or they're not coming out as much. Hey, can I come sit with you, right? Yeah. Check in with people, because people are still afraid to ask for that help. And so that one touch point that we can make out to somebody when we see them being out of character, that could essentially save their life. It could create an opportunity for them to actually say, yes, I do need help, right? And know that they're not being judged by doing so.
I love that. It speaks to my heart and my soul. That's one of the things I always, me and my friends, we always joke about. Check on your strong friends, right?
Absolutely.
Because your strong friends are the ones that you're like, she's good, he's good, they're fine, they're doing all these things, look at how they're showing up. And sometimes it's like, no, we need to be checked in on too.
Yes.
And then check on your friends that you know may be doing some awkward things
Absolutely.
that are not, presenting the same way that they normally do, showing up the same way. I love that. It's important, and that's what we have to do as community.
Yes.
Rossina, this has been an impactful conversation. I could talk to you all day long.
Yes.
And I think that this is so necessary for our community. I hope that if you're watching this, you share this with someone else. Thank you for sharing your vital insight and really for the work that you're doing. We appreciate it. The Therapists of Color Collaborative, it is clear that you're really addressing the mental health needs that we need right here, the mental health that we need in our community. And it's crucial for organizations like yours to be at the forefront. So
Absolutely.
thank you. For our viewers, if you want to connect with the Therapists of Color Collaborative, visit their website at www.therapistofcolor.com. Remember, mental health is vital for everyone, and finding the right support is absolutely key. Stay tuned for more enlightening conversations on Sitting with Shay J. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.